In 1925, Percy Fawcett set off on an expedition into uncharted territory. He headed off into the depths of the Amazonian jungle with two co-explorers with him. And alongside them, he had two locals, two Brazilians, who would guide him along the way. He headed off in search of a lost city, a place of legend, which he named the City of Zed. His hope was that he would find this place, but the problem was, no one really knew if this city existed, or if it did exist, where it had ever been. And so off they headed, and the tragedy was, no one ever heard of this expedition again. It vanished, it disappeared into the unknown. Maybe destroyed by warring tribes, perhaps lost in the midst of the jungle. The problem was, these men, bravely heading off into the jungle, didn't know where they were going. And it can be similar with us as we approach God, as we head into uncharted territory, maybe not knowing where we're going or to whom we're speaking. We can get lost along the way. And as Jesus taught his people to pray, he did it with one great foundation, and that was this, that he revealed God. In fact, Jesus said to his disciples that he who has seen me has seen the Father. And so as he taught his people to pray, not only did he start by saying, "We have a Father in heaven," but he carried on to reveal just who that Father was, what he was like, to reveal his character. We have some great ideas about what God might be like, don't we? We sometimes think of what he might look like or how he might behave. But really, a lot of it can be guesswork, a little like heading off into the unknown. But the remarkable thing is, we don't have to guess, because God has shown himself through Jesus. And one of the things that he says about himself is this: he is holy. His name is holy. And so as Jesus leads his people in this Lord's Prayer, the next great phrase that comes up, the great petition, is this: hallowed be thy name. May your name be holy, honored and revered. And Jesus' prayer is really a great declaration that God is holy, that there's no one like him in heaven or on earth. He alone is holy. And the Old Testament Jews had such a sense of the holiness of the name of God that they wouldn't even say this name out loud. They wouldn't write his name down. In fact, whenever they were discussing the name of the Lord, they would just use that phrase, the name of the Lord, rather than say the actual name. It was so holy to them. And in fact, throughout the Old Testament, God reveals all sorts of different names. Names that describe what he's like, names that reveal attributes of his character. Names like, God is my provider, God is my shepherd, God is my healer. You see, the name of the Lord reveals what God is like. It describes the entirety of God. And so when the Lord Jesus prays this prayer, hallowed be thy name, it is a great declaration of the holiness of the whole of God, that in every way he is pure, in every way he is separate and different. And throughout the Bible, God is revealed as this mighty and holy God. One who burns with a consuming fire, one who dwells in inapproachable light, one who is not like anything else that exists anywhere. And yet Jesus' declaration of the holiness of God is more than a declaration. It's also a prayer. It's a longing of his soul, and it's to become a longing of our souls too. A longing that in all the world and in our own lives, God's name would be hallowed. God's name would be holy, would be sanctified. And in fact, the Apostle Peter, writing one of his letters, echoes this very prayer that Jesus prays. And he calls every Christian to sanctify Christ as Lord in our hearts, or to hallow Christ in our hearts as Lord. And so the big question that comes to us is, how can we be sanctifiers of the name of God in our own lives? How in our hearts can we exalt him as Lord and allow none other to have his place? And really it all comes down to this. We are called to be worshippers. At the heart of it all, sanctifying the name of the Lord is to worship God as God alone. It is to submit to Christ as Lord alone. It is to say, you alone are glorious. You alone are the true satisfier of my soul. You alone can bring the joy that I crave, and you alone are my salvation. You alone are my hope through the darkest of days, and you alone are my strength when I am weak. You, O Lord, are my God, and I worship you. And so, as we walk through our days, as we seek to be a people who pray, I wonder if often we find ourselves floundering because we're walking into uncharted territory, not quite sure where we're going or where we're heading. Well, here's the foundation that Jesus gives us. Not only do we have a Father, but our Father is holy. He's not a God who fits in my pocket or a white-bearded man in the sky. He's not like a little angel on my shoulder. He is pure and wonderful and glorious, and there is none like him. And yet, here's the paradox of it all. We get to call him Father, and we get to approach this unapproachable God. So here's the call of Christ on our lives. Let us be a people of worship, a people of wonder, and a people of awe, a people who set apart Christ as Lord in our hearts. So what it all comes down to is this: will we be a people who hallow the name of the Lord? A people who in our own lives sanctify him as God. People who make it our mission to worship him, to do what we were created to do. At the start of the prayer, Jesus reveals the very foundation of our lives, the place that we're headed to. So, if we feel that we're walking into uncharted territory, let's go the way that he's called us to go.